guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Hemali here, and thank you so much for joining me today. So I recently put up a video responding to your guys' brown girl problems, and I had so much fun doing that video. And in that video, I explained that there were so many questions involving parents and their expectations with us. So I wanted to make a separate video responding to those comments, and that's what this video is about. It is brown girl problems, parents, expectations edition. I feel like so many brown kids, especially girls, end up feeling a lot of pressure and expectation from their parents, and it can be really tough to deal with sometimes. So I'm gonna go through some of the responses you guys gave me, and I'll either react to the ones that I don't really have advice for and give advice for the ones that I do have advice for. Okay, let's get right into it. First question is, how do I live my life without upsetting my parents and their incredibly high standards? Honestly, this is a pretty tough one. I know we've all felt this feeling before of just not feeling good enough. I think that's a pretty common feeling in brown households. And I don't think you can always please your parents, and that's okay. I feel like we are brought up on this mentality that we need to do as we're told and, follow through with everything that our parents say. And that's not realistic. I think our parents have such a high expectation of us because they just want to see us do really well. They want to see us succeed. They want us to take advantage of all the opportunities that they didn't have growing up, especially because so many of them sacrifice so much to move to another country and start from scratch just to give you a better life. And it's unfortunate, but I don't think you can always keep your parents happy. And I think that's something that you need to live with. I think your parents always have this vision of what they want your life to be like, but you need to understand what your vision is and what you want, and you need to fulfill that vision over what your parents have planned for you. And that's not to say what your parents are saying to you is wrong or whatever it is. You should take into consideration their advice and where they're guiding you, because obviously they do come from experience as well. They've lived a longer life than you, but at the end of the day, you should not be living your life in order to please your parents. They are never going to be the ones that are living with the regret of a missed opportunity. They are not going to be the ones that feel miserable when working a job that you don't want to work. They're not the ones that are going to be waking up next to a person that you don't want to wake up next to. So I think regardless of what you do, there are definitely going to be times where you upset your parents, and there's nothing you can do about that. You just have to stick to what you want and know that it makes you happy, and explain that to your parents. And even if they are upset and disagree right now, usually they always end up coming around to it, especially when they see that you're doing okay and you're happy and things are going well for you. They always tend to come around, and they may not apologize or anything like that, but they will still be around, and I think that's all that matters. I think it's very hard for them to be able to put themselves in someone else's perspective, because they've grown up so much on this mentality of just do what you're told and, don't step out of line. So when they see their child stepping out of line and not listening to them, they'll be they think oh my God, how can you be so disrespectful? I never did this to my parents. But they also don't realize that we're living in such a different, world than they are. We grew up so differently than how they did back home. You need to remember that this life is yours. You need to do what makes you happy, and you shouldn't be living it for other people. And with that will always come the feeling of not feeling good enough and not being able to live up to someone's standards. But you don't need to be living up to someone else's standards. You need to be living up to your own standards. So you set the bar and you say how high you want to go, and that really is up to you. It honestly sucks because I know you always want your parents' approval and you want them to be happy, especially because they provided you with so much and gave you such a wonderful life. But it can't always work like that, unfortunately. Next question. How do I get my parents to stop treating me like a child at 25 years old? This one's difficult. I feel like as long as you live under their roof, they're always going to treat you like a child. I've noticed that myself, once I moved out of the house, that's when I started noticing that they gave me more freedom, and they started talking to me as if I was more of an adult than when I was living under their roof. I feel like there's times where you just can't listen to them and you got to do what you got to do in order to proceed on with your life and make the right decisions for you. But yeah, I don't know if there's really changing their mind of that. I think having a talk with them sometimes, being like, look, you know, you raised me to be a strong, independent woman. I get all my values from you. You know, you guys are great people, and you need to believe that your parenting skills have brought me up to be smart and independent and capable of doing what I need to do. So you can't just keep babying me around and expecting me to follow whatever you say, because you're not going to be around forever. And when I get married or when I move out or whatever it is, you're not always going to be there, and I'm going to need to make these decisions, and I'm going to need to learn how to grow up. So you can't baby me like that, because it's not going to help me in any way in my future. A lot of them had already been married and moved to another country and pretty much almost had a child or have had a child by this age. And that's what boggles my mind, because it's like, I'm the same age as when you got married and moved to a completely new country with a man you didn't even know, and you had a child and you survived fine. And I'm here pretty much way ahead of where they were in their life at this point. In the sense of like, you know, I have a family to back me up in this country that I live in. I grew up in this country, so I understand, you know, how this world works. I speak the language. I don't have any learning curves in terms of that. I had the opportunity to a great education and all these things that pretty much my parents sacrificed to be able to give to me. And now they don't want me to use any of those opportunities, or don't see it like that. They just see me as this kid. And I'm like, look at how much you accomplished when you had very, very little. You gave me so much more to work with, yet you think that I can't accomplish anything. But you're the one that raised me, and you're the one that, you know, instilled your values in me and the hard work ethic and whatever it is. Yet you still think I'm not capable. That's what sometimes boggles my mind. I think they will forever just see you as a kid. And I think that comes from the protective side of them. Of course, like as a parent, you just want the best for your child. You want to protect them. You want to make sure they're always taken care of. But sometimes it can feel super suffocating. And so I totally get that. I feel like I didn't start getting treated like an adult until I moved out of the house. So yeah, I really don't know if there's any convincing them. Sometimes I think you just got to do what you got to do in order to move ahead, and that's all you can do. Convincing your parents not to care what other people will say or think. I think the phrase, what will people think, will be the death of me. Like, I literally hate when my parents say that. It is so annoying. I've tried to convince my parents to not care what other people think. They've gotten a little bit better over the years, but they still have that mentality of like, you know, we need to keep our image and we can't let other people talk badly about us. There's a few things that I've told them in regards to this phrase. One was, you can't let other people dictate how you're gonna live your life. Like, that makes zero sense, because these people are going to talk shit about you anyways. Like, regardless of what you're doing, they're gonna find something to talk shit about. You could be doing everything right in the book, but they'll find some like minuscule mistake that you've made and make a big deal about it. So who cares what they think at this point, because they're gonna find something to talk about anyways. And these people are always gonna talk and only understand one side of the story. They never see the full picture, but you do, and you know what is right and what is wrong. You know, the intentions behind your actions. So why are you bothered so much by what someone else thinks, especially if they're not that close to you or not that important? Like, why does that bother you so much? And another thing I've said to them too is, if these people are talking about you and you feel like you're being outcasted by your community, why are they your community anyways? Like, why are these the people that you want to be around? If they're really your community and your friends and, you know, people that you want to keep in touch with, they would support you no matter what hardships you're going through. They wouldn't be sitting there judging you. Like, those aren't the people you want to keep close to you. You want to keep the people that uplift you and are there for you no matter what you do, no matter what you're going through, even if you have made a mistake, because we all make mistakes. It's inevitable. So you can't keep people around that are constantly just going to pick you apart and talk shit about you. Like, what's the point of having those people? They're only going to make your life miserable. That's what I've explained to my parents. They always come back to me with, you don't understand, you don't know what it's like, you know, you never grew up in a community like this and blah, blah, blah. And I get that. I can feel their pain on that. I haven't grown up in an environment like that as much as they have, at least. And you know, sometimes it's just so ingrained in you that it's very, very hard for you to change out of that mentality. So I let it kind of sit with them. They have eased up over the years as I've kept telling them that, but it hasn't fully gone away. And I don't know if it'll ever fully go away, just because that's really how they grew up. And I find brown parents can be kind of stubborn sometimes. Okay, so these next two questions go hand in hand with each other, and this is something I used to get in trouble for all the time. Were your parents okay with you going clubbing when you were younger, and how do you get your parents to be less strict when going out? I used to get in trouble from my parents literally all the time for being out too much. And I wasn't necessarily like clubbing a lot because I used to work a lot, but I used to love to hang out with my friends. So I would always be out and about with them, or I would always be out and about because I was working. There was one summer though where I like went out every single weekend with my friends, and we would go like clubbing or to bars or something like that. And that summer I got in trouble the most because I was coming home like super late. But yeah, my parents were never thrilled with how much I went out. In terms of like clubbing, I always used to tell my parents I was going to a bar and not clubbing. Like that was my way of getting around it, because a bar seemed a little bit more, I guess, chill, and it didn't seem so like wild and raunchy, because a bar seemed more like, okay, you're just sitting at a table getting drinks with someone and chilling. And one thing for me too that kind of helped me get around it was I was always a designated driver. I personally don't like to drink a lot, so I always chose to be the designated driver, and that made my parents feel a little bit more comfortable too, because they knew I wasn't like out getting drunk, but they still hated the fact that I was out late. But yeah, I argued a lot with my parents saying like, you know, I'm getting older, you can't always just like tell me to be in the house all the time, because when am I supposed to be doing these type of things? Like when am I supposed to be going out and having fun? Like I can't do these things when I'm like older and married and have kids. Like you can. These are the days that you need to do it, so you gotta let me do it. It was a really hard argument to have, especially because both of my sisters are introverts and they didn't go out a lot anyways, and I was always out and about. I love being with my friends and my boyfriend, and so my parents just, I don't know, I think at some point they just like gave up on me because I would leave anyways. I would honestly just bounce. Like I couldn't listen to them anymore, and I just needed to get out. It probably wasn't the best way for me to handle that, but some things that I did make sure that I always did was I always told my parents that I was going. Like I would never just leave the house without letting them know. I did let them know that I would be out of the house and what times I would probably be back. Like I would say like, okay, look, I am going to be coming back really late, or I should be back around like 10, 11 or something like that. Whenever they did call me, I would make sure I picked up or at least texted them back, because I understand that if you're out late, like they're gonna be worried. Like that's just a natural thing that parents are going to be worried about, and rightfully so. It's their kid, they want to protect you. So I would always make sure that I would message them back or give them a call if I am running late or whatever it is, to let them know where I am. Again, they still weren't like thrilled, but at least that was somewhat comforting, knowing that I was messaging them back. But other than that, I just kind of like left. I just like did what I had to do, and I bounced. I didn't listen to them much, and I think that's where they thought I was like such a rebel. But I wasn't doing anything wild half the time. I was like at a friend's house or just like chilling with a Bikra in his car. Like I wasn't doing anything crazy. But even then I felt like I couldn't tell them that all the time because they would still be mad. I don't know what it is about brown parents, but they like always just want you to be home. They always just want you to be in their sight. And they'd always say like, we want your company. And I'm like, okay, but we don't even talk. Like I just sit in my room all the time. So I never got it. But yeah, that's what I would do. And I would just continuously get into fights with them to a point where I think they just kind of gave up, and they were just like, okay, whatever, she's just gonna do whatever she wants anyways, and I can't do anything about it. I don't think anything I said was sound advice, but that's just what I did. And you guys can take it how you want to, but don't come blaming me if your parents are mad at you, because that's not on me, that's on you. Okay, this next response I got quite a bit, and it's basically about how our parents treat us differently if we're girls versus if we were a boy. I got people saying, when your parents let your brothers do everything but you can't because you're a girl, asking for permission for everything as a girl in a brown family, parents having different standards for their daughters versus their sons. This I didn't really face at all growing up because I grew up with 2 sisters, but I could totally see how it was different for a guy versus a girl in a brown family. I saw a lot of my friends grow up with that problem, and you just see how much differently guys in general are treated differently in the Indian culture. This is honestly so unfortunate, and it pisses me off because I'm like, why do you treat them like they're these little kings, and then us girls are like your slaves, like, or something that you would sell off, or your property? Like, I've never understood that. I've always felt like as a girl we're treated like we're property. I remember this one time specifically, like this was like a couple years ago, maybe when I was like 25-ish. I told my dad that I was going on a trip to Thailand and a few other countries in Asia. And he was like, okay, well, I'll think about it. And I was like, what are you thinking about? Like, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you that I'm going on this trip. And he's like, no, I need to discuss this with your mom. You can't just like go wherever you want. And I was like, why not? Like, I'm old, right? I was like, you wouldn't say this to Rupal, who's my older sister. I was like, you wouldn't say this to Rupal, and she's only a couple years older than me. Like, you know, why is it different for her? And then I gave the example of, if I was married right now, you wouldn't be saying, okay, let me think about it. I would just go on my own. So what difference does that make? Like, if I wasn't married today, I have to ask you permission to go somewhere. But then tomorrow when I am married, like I no longer have to ask you permission. Like, how does that work? And he's like, well, no, he's like, right now you belong to this family, so I need to make these decisions. And when you're married, you belong to your husband's family, so like you would need to ask him permission to go somewhere. I was like, hell fucking no. Like, no. That is not happening. I was like, why would I need to ask anyone's permission to do anything at this point? Because I'm old enough. Like, I should be making my decisions for myself. Like, I can't be asking people for permission. Like, what's the point of you raising me as a strong, independent woman that, you know, can stand on her own 2 feet? Like, what was the purpose of all that if I just need to ask permission to everyone and never be able to live my own life or make my own decisions? Like, I don't know. That honestly always boggled my mind. I feel like the way the brown community raises their sons is so wrong. It's like as if they could never do anything wrong, and that they're these angels sent from heaven and such a blessing. And for a daughter, it's like, you're a burden. Like, I need to take care of you. I always need to watch after you. I always need to protect you. And it's like, no, we can do that on our own. Like, you instilled great morals and values into us. You instilled independence into us. Like, why do you continue to treat us like we need to be taken care of all the time? And I think a lot of that fear comes from the fact that there's all these like crazy ass men that take advantage of women, and our parents are afraid of that sometimes. And it's like, well, why aren't you teaching your sons how to be better people? Like, why are you just letting them off the hook for everything and then putting all the responsibility on your daughters? Like, how does that make any fucking sense? And I also think like back in the day, it was the man's responsibility to provide for their family and the woman's responsibility to take care of the house, which makes sense because back then the laws were that men had to work and, you know, women weren't allowed to, and whatever it was. Obviously the laws and the times were so different back then, but it's so different now. Like, women work, we provide just as much as men do. We are so much more equal in our relationships now that it's like, you shouldn't just be raising your daughter to become a good wife. You need to be raising your daughter to be a well-rounded person, and vice versa. You need to be doing that for your son as well. You need to be raising him to be a good husband, but just also a well-rounded person in general. It's like the expectations and standards for women progressed over time, and for men it didn't. And so it's like, there's no winning for us. It's like, we need to fill all of these shoes, and men are only expected to fill the shoes that they were given at the beginning. And it's like, hello, like we can't do all this on our own. And my goal is not to become the perfect little housewife that just shuts up and sits in the corner and does as she's told and only speaks when she's spoken to. Like, that's not the world we live in anymore. So we definitely need to change the way we raise our sons and the way we raise our daughters to reflect the world we actually live in. You wouldn't feel so scared for your daughters or feel the need to protect them so much or feel the need to properly train them to become good housewives if you just raised your sons better. It's as simple as that. It starts there. You gotta give equal treatment to both your sons and daughters. You need to teach them both the same values. Like, you can't teach your daughter one thing and then teach your son another thing. There needs to be respect on both levels. They both need to be well-rounded. And I don't think that just goes for the Brown community. I feel like that goes for any community, because that's something that we've royally fucked up on. We definitely have different expectations of men and what they can get away with versus what women can get away with, and it's honestly awful. We have such low expectations for men and they can get away with so much, and it's like, why don't we hold them accountable like we hold women accountable? So the last response I'm going to end this video with is another problem that hits close to home for me. Parents say no to everything and then say we never stop you from doing anything. Oh my god, preach. This happens all the freaking time. I have gotten into so many arguments with my parents, and they'll be like, well, we never stopped you. And I was like, maybe you didn't stop me, but you did talk down on me and you did not support me and you weren't there for me when I needed help. I had to do all these things by myself, and you made my life like a living hell with lecture after lecture telling me all the things that I was doing wrong, even though I wasn't doing anything wrong. I remember when I first started my makeup career, my parents weren't very supportive of me. And then one night, like I think 1.5 to 2 years into me doing my makeup, I got into this massive fight with my parents, and I was just like, I don't understand why you never support me. You didn't even give me the chance. Like, you just automatically told me that I was gonna fail. And they were like, no, we let you pursue your career. Look, you're a makeup artist now, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, but I had to fight so hard for it. Like, you didn't just let me do anything. I had to fight for it. I had so many sleepless nights thinking about how much I disappointed you. I had all these times where you would yell at me for always being in the bathroom doing makeup. There were so many times where you told me to get a real job. I was like, that's not letting me do what I want to do. That's just accepting the fact that you're not stopping me from doing what I'm doing, and you're just going to continue to be miserable about the fact that I didn't listen to you. It's not the same. And then there was like another time where I had pretty much a similar argument, and my parents were like, no, we've always supported you, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, because you've made me feel like shit so many other occasions. I'm like, not saying that you guys were bad parents, but like, you know, you always expected me just to follow everything that you said. And if I didn't, you would be upset. And so it was never this like accepting feeling of, okay, you know, do what you want, follow your dreams, whatever, we'll be there to support you. It was more of the vibe of, okay, do whatever you want because you're not going to listen to me anyways. And you could feel the resentment in it, and it just sucked. It's not the same. You're not supporting me from the beginning. You're just accepting the fact that I'm not listening to you. And there's a huge difference in that. So to whoever sent that, I feel you on that, because that is hella annoying. Anyways, guys, that's all I have for this video. If you did like it, please do not forget to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to see more of these, leave me your suggestions in the comments below. I will be doing another Brown Girl Problems relationship, marriage, love life edition. So if you have questions for that, leave them in the comments below. I just want to say thank you so much for all the love and support you guys constantly show me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!